Seattle's gray again this morning. The rain hasn't stopped since last night. I'm Peter. I'm 40, and I live alone in a tiny apartment that feels even smaller on days like this. The window barely lets in any light, just enough to remind me how heavy the sky is. There are half-finished photos on the table. My camera's been collecting dust, and the coffee next to me has been cold for hours. I used to have a family, a wife, and 3 kids. Our home used to be full of laughter. Now it's just me, and this place echoes with nothing but rain and my own breathing. The pain isn't just about a marriage falling apart. It's the weight of believing I wasn't enough to hold on to the people I loved. Depression doesn't hit you like a single storm. It seeps in like fog. It rewires your brain, changes how you see yourself. Science even shows that long-term depression can shrink the hippocampus, the part of your brain that regulates emotions and memories. I feel that every day. Some mornings I can't get out of bed. Other days I hide behind my camera pretending I'm just working. But there are moments when the lens feels like a mirror showing me the truth. I can capture the world, but I can't seem to fix what's broken inside me. I think this darkness started a long time ago. I can still hear it clearly. My dad's yelling, my mom, crying glass, shattering on the floor. I was 7, curled up under the dining table, shaking. The night my dad left, my mom collapsed on the floor and pushed me away. Go to your room. I remember standing there, frozen, feeling like I didn't matter. A few months later, I was living with my grandmother in this old creaky house on the edge of town. The nights were so quiet, they felt loud. I'd lie in bed, listening to the clock tick, but in my head, I could still hear my parents screaming. That's when I started blaming myself for everything. I learned to be silent. I learned to believe I was the problem. Now at 40, those memories still haunt me. Trauma changes your nervous system. It keeps you stuck in survival mode long after the danger is gone. I carry that fear of being left behind everywhere I go. I can fake a smile during the day, do my work, make small talk. But when night falls, I'm right back in that scared little boy's body. Depression isn't just sadness. It's a disease. Over 280 million people live with it, yet most of us suffer in silence. It's a shadow that drains your energy, twists your thoughts, and convinces you you're completely alone, even when you're not. I'm not telling this story for pity. I'm telling it because maybe you're sitting there right now feeling the same way I do. Maybe you need to hear this. You're not alone. Someone else has been through the same darkness. And sometimes, just knowing that is enough to believe there's still a way out, even if all you can see right now is a flicker of light in the fog. I wasn't always Peter the man sitting alone in this apartment. Back then, I was just Ethan, a terrified little boy who thought keeping quiet could keep him safe. I can still see that kitchen, like it's right in front of me. Dim yellow light buzzing overhead, cigarette smoke hanging heavy in the air, the smell of spilled beer mixing with burnt toast. My father's voice roared through the house, shaking the walls, while my mother's sobs cut through like glass. Then came the actual glass shattering on the floor, exploding into 1,000 pieces. I remember flinching so hard I thought my bones might break. I was curled up under the dining table, knees to my chest, heart pounding so violently it felt like it was trying to escape. That shattered glass wasn't just a mess, it was the sound of my sense of safety breaking into pieces I'd never find again. And it didn't happen just once. Nights like that weren't an exception, they were routine. The night my father finally left is carved into me like a scar. He stormed through the house, shoving clothes into a bag, slamming drawers and doors, while my mom begged him not to go. I remember the slam of the front door so hard, it rattled the windows, followed by a silence so deep, it was suffocating. My mom collapsed on the floor, sobbing so hard, her whole body shook. I ran to hug her, desperate to make it stop, but she pushed me away. "Go to your room," she whispered, voice cracking. At 7 years old, that was the moment I learned love could leave, and that even my arms weren't wanted. A few months later, I was living with my grandmother in her creaky old house at the edge of town. It was supposed to be safe, but safety felt like silence. At night, the quiet was deafening. I'd lie in bed listening to the clock tick, but in my head, I could still hear screaming doors slamming, glass breaking. I'd replay it over and over, trying to figure out what I could have done differently to stop it. That's when something inside me shifted. I started blaming myself for everything. If I had been better, quieter, easier to love, maybe my dad wouldn't have left. Maybe my mom wouldn't cry. Psychologists call this attributional style, the way you explain the events in your life. Mine was simple: if something went wrong, it was probably my fault. That belief became my foundation, and depression built itself on top of it, like a fortress. I think a lot about how no one saw it back then. In school, I was just sensitive. When I couldn't focus, they said I might have ADHD like so many kids in America. 10% of US children are diagnosed, compared to just 1% in Europe. We've medicated an entire generation without asking why so many kids feel broken in the first place. Pills were easier than asking hard questions, easier than noticing the quiet, jumpy boy in the back of the class who never felt safe. By the time I was a teenager, I was already a ghost of myself. I was hyper-aware of every sound, every mood, every room I walked into. My nervous system was stuck in survival mode, even when nothing was happening. That's what trauma does. It rewires you. It makes you live in the past, waiting for danger that isn't there. And that's how depression crept in. Not all at once, but slowly, like fog, filling a valley, until one day I couldn't remember what sunlight felt like. Depression isn't just sadness. It's waking up feeling like your chest is full of cement. It's staring at a toothbrush for half an hour because the idea of brushing your teeth feels impossible. It's sitting in a room full of people and feeling like a ghost, like no one sees you, like maybe no one ever will. It's hating yourself so deeply that every mistake feels like proof that you're unlovable. And it all started in that kitchen with cigarette smoke and broken glass. By the time I hit adulthood, the trauma I went through as a kid wasn't just a memory anymore, it was hardwired into me. Science proves this. Kids who grow up in violent or emotionally unstable homes often develop an overactive amygdala, the brain's fear center, and an underdeveloped prefrontal cortex, the part that helps regulate emotions. In simple terms, your body learns to live in survival mode. Even decades later, my nervous system acts like the danger never left. My brain still scans every moment for threats that aren't there. Depression isn't just feeling sad. It rewires how you think, feel, and even how your brain functions. Studies show children of depressed parents are 3 to 6 times more likely to struggle with depression themselves, not just because of genetics, but because they inherit their parents' patterns of fear, shame, and helplessness. A parent who has never felt safe can't always teach their child how to feel safe. That thought broke me. The idea of passing this darkness onto my kids, I couldn't bear it. My life became proof of how deep these scars run. I'd spend hours spiraling, replaying every fight, every mistake, convinced I was the problem. Psychologists call it rumination. I called it torture. Some nights I'd dig my nails into my arms just to feel something I could control. Other nights, I'd lie awake staring at the ceiling thinking maybe the kindest thing I could do for my family was to disappear completely, not because I didn't love them, but because I loved them so much I couldn't stand the thought of hurting them. So I left. I signed those divorce papers with shaking hands, feeling like I was cutting off a piece of my own soul. Walking out of that house, hearing my son crying behind the door, was like being torn in half. I told myself I was protecting them from me from this illness. But now I live in this tiny apartment, and it feels less like freedom and more like a prison I built for myself. Trauma doesn't just leave scars, it rewires your entire sense of self. It steals your ability to trust, to feel worthy of love. And depression isn't something you can just shake off. It spreads in ways people don't see, not like a virus, but like a script your kids memorize without realizing it. And I swore I'd never let my children learn my script, even if it meant tearing myself out of their lives. Now I'm 40, and this apartment feels less like a home and more like a punishment. Every wall is covered in photos, but none of them can fill the silence. It's just me, my coffee, and the ghosts of a life I destroyed. Some nights, I sit here for hours, staring at the same photograph of my kids trying to remember what their laughter sounded like. And every time I do, the guilt hits me like a freight train. I replay every mistake, every argument, every night. I chose silence over love, and it eats me alive. Depression has this way of twisting your mind. It convinces you you're toxic, that you're safer away from the people you love. I believed that. I signed those divorce papers thinking I was protecting them. Now I just feel hollow. Sleep doesn't come easy. Most nights, I'm awake at 3 a.m., scrolling through my phone looking for anything to distract me from my own thoughts. Sometimes, I wonder if this is all I deserve, to sit here alone drowning in regret, while life moves on without me. I'm mentally exhausted, but my brain never stops. It just replays every failure, every reason why I don't belong. But somewhere in this darkness, a tiny voice has started whispering, "You can't stay here forever." Maybe it's survival instinct. Maybe it's the part of me that still remembers what it felt like to hold my daughter's hand, or hear my wife call my name with love in her voice. I want that life back so badly it hurts, but right now, it feels like it's 1,000 miles away. Still, I know this much: if I don't fight for it, if I don't fight for me, I'm going to lose everything. So, I'm here standing at rock bottom, wondering if maybe this is where change finally begins. That night, it was almost 3 a.m. I was sitting in the dark, hunched over my phone, the cold blue light washing over my tired face. My thumb kept scrolling through video after video, not really paying attention, until I heard a calm voice that stopped me in my tracks. Depression isn't just sadness. It's a system, a loop, where your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors feed into each other. A system. That word hit me like a punch to the gut. This wasn't just me being weak or overly emotional. It was a machine I'd been trapped in for decades, and I didn't even know it. Then the voice said, everyone has their own way into depression and their own way out. For the first time in years, I felt seen. I wasn't just sad. I was stuck in a system that was rewiring me from the inside out. And maybe there was a way out if I could figure out where to start. The speaker listed things that felt like someone was reading my diary, internal orientation. I don't trust facts, I trust feelings. If I feel worthless, that means I am worthless. Stress generation. I've made life-changing decisions in panic, like signing those divorce papers convinced leaving was the only way to protect my family. Rumination. My brain replays the same old tape, mom crying, dad yelling, the sound of glass shattering, over and over like it just happened. Global thinking. One mistake meant I was a total failure. One bad day meant life itself was broken. Unrealistic expectations. I believed love or success would somehow erase all my childhood scars, but nothing ever filled that hole inside me. And then science started explaining everything I'd felt all along. Kids raised in violent or unstable homes often grow up with an overactive amygdala, the brain's fear center, and a weaker prefrontal cortex, the part that helps regulate emotions. Basically, my nervous system was trained to live in survival mode, constantly scanning for danger, even when nothing was there. Depression isn't just sadness. It's a disease that rewires your brain, twisting the way you think, feel, and see yourself. And the scariest part, it spreads not like a virus, but like a script kids memorize just by watching. That thought terrified me. My children might grow up carrying the same darkness that's been choking me all these years. For For the first time, I felt like I'd been handed a map. But it wasn't a map with an easy escape route. It was one that showed me I was standing in the middle of a maze. That night, when I finally set my phone down and grabbed a notebook, I wasn't writing some inspirational life plan. I was a guy who felt like he was drowning, scribbling anything that might keep me from going under. I didn't need a miracle. I needed proof I could still choose something. So I started stupid small drink a glass of water, take a shower, step outside for 5 minutes, text my sister. Part of me sneered, this is pathetic. But here's the thing, nobody told me when you're depressed, tiny actions can start to rewire your brain. That first glass of water in the morning proof, I wasn't completely gone. I also had to face the self-blame loop. The brain's a meaning-making machine. It connects dots that don't belong together. I feel awful. Must be my fault. Depression loves that story. There's even research showing people with depression have weaker connections in brain areas that regulate self-blame. So one mistake feels like proof you're a total failure. Add the memory bias. You remember the one crappy thing you said, not the 10 kind ones, and boom, you've got a spiral. So I made a deal with myself, stop guessing, start testing, and quit feeding the spiral. Get the facts about my body. Full physical blood work, thyroid, vitamins, everything. Turned out my laziness was exhaustion, plus a couple of deficiencies I'd ignored. Data calmed the shame. Cut screens at night, phone charges in the kitchen now. Night 1. I cried myself to sleep. By week 2, I slept through the night for the first time in years. Sleep debt is rocket fuel for depression. Move even when I don't want to. Walked the block. No playlist, no stopwatch. 10 minutes became 15, then 30. Movement, sheesh hours, proof I'm still here. Right steps like I'm teaching a beginner because I am. My therapist had me outline how to take a shower. It felt ridiculous, find bathroom. Turn on light set water, but my brain was running on fog and feelings. Steps gave me rails. Then I made microflows for real life, before noon shower, real breakfast, open the blinds. Text one safe person. Edit one photo, just one. When my mind went global, your life is a disaster. Specific steps pulled me back to doable. Change how I talk to my thoughts. Instead of I'm worthless, I tried I'm having the thought that I'm worthless. Then I'm noticing I'm having the thought. That tiny bit of distance therapy, folks call it diffusion, kept thoughts from posing as facts. I stopped asking, is this true depression? Always says yes. And started asking, is this helpful? If not, let it float by like a leaf on a stream and pick a more useful cue. Drink water. Put on shoes. Call out the self-blame trap. Blame gave me fake control. If it's my fault, maybe I can fix it, but it kept me stuck. I used 3 questions to crack it. If a neutral stranger watched this, would they blame me 100%? Why not? If a friend told me this story, what would I say to them? Even if I messed up, what were my intentions? Do I always do this, or is my brain overgeneralizing again? Build a real lifeline, not just hope therapy with homework and accountability. If a therapist couldn't explain how they track progress or give me between session reps, I kept looking. Back behind the camera, 1 photo a day posted online, not for likes, for contact, proof I still make things. 1 coffee a week with a safe person. Sometimes I just listened, still counted as human contact. 2 minutes of breathing, not monk-level meditation, just enough to interrupt the alarm system in my chest. I still wake up some mornings feeling buried under a mountain. The difference now is I don't try to summit. I take 1 step, drink water, make the bed, send a text. Those tiny steps, stacked over time, are starting to feel like bricks in a life I thought I'd lost. Healing isn't linear, it's messy. I've face-planted more times than I can count, but every time I get up, I remind myself I am not my trauma. I am not my depression. I'm a man learning day by day how to fight for his life. And if you feel like you're drowning too, listen, you don't need to see the top to start climbing. 1 step is enough. It's proof you're still here, proof you're still fighting. Seattle's still gray this morning, but I'm out here anyway, camera in hand, sneakers soaked from the rain, breath clouding in the cold air. I stop for a second, point my lens up, and there it is, sunlight breaking through the fog. Click, one picture, one step, proof I'm still here. Managing depression isn't some finish line you cross. It's a lifelong process. And depression, it doesn't define me. It's not who I am. It's just a condition, something I can work through one choice at a time. If you're watching this right now, feeling stuck, feeling like you're drowning, I want you to know you're not broken. You're not alone. You're not a burden. You're human, and you deserve to feel safe, loved, and alive. Start with something small today. Drink a glass of water. Step outside for 5 minutes. Send a text to someone you trust. It might not feel like much, but those tiny steps are proof you're still here, still fighting. That's why I started sharing my story here on The Truth MD, because your story matters too. Mental health isn't a weakness. It's a part of being human. If this spoke to you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe, leave a comment, and join a community where honesty and hope can exist side by side. Because this isn't the end of your story. Step by step, we can rewrite the script depression wants us to live by. And together, we can remind each other, even in the darkest fog, there's still light.